Greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the best damn movie-related show on the internet, the John Campea Show, coming to you from right here on my YouTube channel. I'm, of course, your host, John Campea. It's an honor and privilege to have you guys joining me here today, as it is every day, as we, a bunch of friends standing around a virtual water cooler, talking about our favorite things in the world, movies and movie news and all that sorts of good stuff. And we do have a hell of a lot of stuff that we need to talk about today. A whole bunch of things have come up here. So let's start things off with this. Netflix has just dropped a trailer for their upcoming film. I don't talk a lot about Netflix films per se, but this one caught my attention. There's a new film coming out on Netflix called The Christmas Chronicles. And what's interesting about it is that it stars Kurt Russell as Santa Claus. But he's not just any Santa Claus. No, he's a cool Santa Claus who sings R&B in clubs and likes to race cars and all this kind of stuff. He's basically a Santa Claus badass. It's a reinterpretation of the Santa Claus character. So basically the idea of this trailer is this. This brother and sister team, this young brother and sister team, they devise a plot to try to catch Santa Claus in a picture, to try to get a picture of Santa Claus. And they sneak into his sleigh and they crash his sleigh, and now Christmas is in danger and they have to work with Santa Claus to try to save Christmas. Sounds pretty, simple enough, pretty harmless enough. But I will admit, seeing Kurt Russell as Santa Claus was a little off-putting, maybe. I'm not saying he's not going to be great in the role. I'm just saying it was not something that fits with my common framework of reality sort of thing. Seeing him in there, in that role, was kind of odd. I don't know if this is desperate or if this is creative. The idea of making a cool Santa Claus, if that's desperate or if that's creative, I don't know. I guess we'll have to see the movie on Netflix to really know for sure. But anyway, the first trailer for The Christmas Chronicles has dropped. Jump on YouTube, search for it. And I'm really curious to know what you guys think about this trailer, because I honestly really don't know what to think about it. I really don't. There's moments in it that I go, oh, this is all right. And moments in it that I go, really? I mean, I'm not saying it's bad. I'm not saying it's good. I simply don't know what to make of this trailer. Check it out for yourselves. Let me know what you guys think about that. All right. Also off the top here, and this is sure to cause some discussion. Now, there has been a lot of discussion lately about Spider-Man and the Sonyverse, and what does the success of Venom mean? What does the success of Venom not mean? All that kind of stuff. Well, as you guys know, because we talked about it a number of weeks ago, Sony, not only are they going into production on a Morbius film here pretty soon, in the next few weeks actually, they're going to start production on a Morbius movie. They're also developing a Kraven the Hunter movie. We've known that for a little while. And they got writer, I should say, Richard Wenk to come on and write the script. Here's what's interesting. The other day, Richard was being interviewed, and he talked a little bit about his Kraven the Hunter movie. And he talked about, which famous comic story it's going to be based on. I mean, not completely based on, but draw a lot of influence from and blah, blah. But in it, he also dropped a weird little statement. He kind of suggests that in the script he's going to write, Kraven is going to come face to face with Spider-Man. He's saying in his script, he's going to have Spider-Man in at least the first draft of his script. Here's what Richard had to say. He said, I'm just starting it. It's an interesting world, a great character. It's going to adhere very closely to the lore of Kraven the Hunter, and he is going to come face to face with Spider-Man. I'm just beginning it. I'm just beginning the process. And because it's a big IP Marvel world, there's lots of hurdles to overcome before you can start writing, to crack the right story and to get the right tone. It's a new world for me. And that, of course, is the screenwriter for the Kraven the Hunter movie, Richard Wenk. Let me read that last part again. I'm just beginning the process. And because it's a big IP Marvel world, there's lots of hurdles to overcome before you can start writing, to crack the right story and to get the right tone. It's a new world for me. What did you just say? Did you just say you're going to put Spider-Man into your Kraven the Hunter script? Did you just say you're trying to crack the code on this Marvel world? All right. Now, it's always dangerous to take just a couple of words, one statement from somebody that we could easily be misinterpreting and build whole worlds of hypotheses around them. It's always a dangerous game to do, but we're movie fans, so that's what we do. So let's engage a little bit of that just for fun. Number one, him saying he's putting Spider-Man in the script. Okay, he didn't say it would be a major role. He just says it comes face to face. Could be saying he's putting in a cameo. Who knows? Maybe it could be a big major role. Another thing to keep in mind here too. I've spoke with the Russo brothers and with Joss Whedon. Lots of times when people are coming up with the first draft of the script, sometimes creators and writers will put some outrageous ideas into the first draft of the script just to see how the studio reacts to it. And then quite often it doesn't actually make it into the second draft, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, or final draft of the scripts. So perhaps this is just Richard going, I'm going to put Spider-Man in my script and turn that in as a first draft. And then ultimately it doesn't get used in the film for obvious reasons. That's a possibility here. Just examining the possibilities. There's another possibility here. Two other possibilities, other than the ones that ultimately lead to no Spider-Man being in a Kraven the Hunter movie. But there are two other possible things here. Number one, Sony is planning on Spider-Man coming back and using Spider-Man in their movies. That's a possibility. It could be that Sony decided a year ago that they were going to bring Spider-Man back into their world. I mean, we don't know. Personally, I think now that Venom has become such a big box office success, I think they'll feel more safe leaving Spider-Man in the MCU because now they have belief that they can make a comic book movie superhero universe and they didn't need Spider-Man to be successful. But it's possible Sony may have decided months ago that they were going to bring Spider-Man back, and this script, this Kraven the Hunter, is going to be the first time we see him come back into the Spider-Verse. However, there's another possibility here. I want to go back to this. Again, I'm acknowledging it's usually folly to try to build big theories around just the slightest little quote from somebody, because usually we're just misinterpreting it. But just for fun, follow me here. Let's go back to that one line he said in the movie. This is right down around the halfway mark. I'm just beginning the process. This is interesting. And because it's a big IP, Marvel World, there's lots of hurdles to overcome before you can start writing to crack the right story. A big IP, comma, Marvel World, comma, there's lots of hurdles to overcome before you can start writing to crack the right story and get the right tone. Follow me here. Again, acknowledging folly to build big theories around maybe misquoted or misunderstood quotes, but just for fun. He mentions Marvel World and he mentions lots of hurdles that have to be overcome. Is there a possibility we're talking about Sony and Marvel actually going to share universes? Because number one, he says, he doesn't just say Spider-Man World or Spider-Verse or what, he says Marvel World. And he says there's a lot of hurdles to overcome. Is there a possibility that all these hurdles he's talking about is now we don't not only have to get the approval of the Sony execs, but we got to get the approval of the Marvel execs because this is going to be in Marvel's world? Again, might be getting way ahead of ourselves there. Might be getting hugely ahead of ourselves. That may not be it at all. But I do find his choice of words rather fascinating. Look, at the end of the day, if I had a $20 bill and I had to put money down on, is Spider-Man actually going to be in a Kraven the Hunter movie? I would bet no. I think either it's just like we've seen many times before with many other movies, writers throwing some outrageous things in the first draft that never actually make it through for several different reasons. Us just misinterpreting him a little bit. Maybe he's playing a little bit coy. I don't know. But if I had $20, I'm betting he's not in Kraven the Hunter. However, the fact of the matter is, here you have this writer saying he's going to put Spider-Man in it. So maybe Sony's taking him back. Maybe they planned ages ago they were taking him back. Or maybe with his choice of words about Marvel and extra hurdles to overcome, could it be that, those interviews with Pascal and Kevin Feige a long time ago saying they kind of inhabit the same reality or something like that, and Kevin Feige going, that's the perfect answer. Like, are they building towards that? Are they going to cross these worlds over? I wouldn't put money on it, but it is fascinating. Now, some of you might be writing, okay, who's this Richard Wenk guy, blah, blah. Well, Richard's a seasoned screenplay writer. He's mostly done a lot of action kind of stuff in his writing. He's made some pretty good films too. He's written some pretty good films. Some of the notable films that he's written are films like The Magnificent Seven, The Equalizer 2. Also, one of my favorite Jason, outside of Crank, one of my favorite Jason Statham movies, The Mechanic. I actually really like The Mechanic. I like that movie a lot. So he's written there. Obviously, he's worked with Antoine Fuqua because 3 of these films are Antoine Fuqua films. Now, he's also written the odd stinker like Expendables 2, but this is a seasoned, experienced guy who's done a lot of action, this type of genre of film. So it's an interesting thing. So I want to know, what do you guys think? How do you interpret these words from the screenwriter of Kraven the Hunter? Jump into the comments section and let me know what you guys think. And also, one other possibility to keep in mind here. The Kraven the Hunter movie may never happen. Forget whether Spider-Man appears in it. The Kraven the Hunter movie itself may never happen. We know we're getting Morbius, but we have no guarantee that a Kraven the Hunter movie will happen. We know they're developing it, but we've seen lots of movies go in development that never actually make it all the way through into production. Anyway, I'm curious to know what you guys think. Jump down to the comment section. Let me know your thoughts. All right, guys, with that stuff out of the way, let's go on to our main topics today. Now, our main topics, how do we select them? It's really quite easy. You guys pretty much select them. How do you select them? Well, you email me your topic or question to john@thejohncampeashow.com. Email me at john@thejohncampeashow.com. Put the word topic in the subject line. And as always, guys, keep those emails to 90 words or less. All right. And then maybe you'll see your topic or question pop up here on the John Campea Show. Let's get on to email number 1. And the first email today comes to us from Manuel F., who writes, "Hey, John, have you noticed that not a lot of people are talking about the upcoming Pet Sematary movie? I'm really looking forward to it. Just saw that they're going to drop the first trailer in the morning." Well, actually, that was this morning. It actually dropped this morning. "What are you expecting, and how high are your expectations for it?" All right, thanks a lot for the question, Manuel. And yes, the Pet Sematary trailer did drop this morning. Dropped at 6 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. What were my expectations? I'll be honest with you. Not much. Not much. It seems kind of like a cheap grab at an old IP, trying to make it work. I mean, Stephen King iterations right now are the hot thing with it and all that kind of stuff. So honestly, expectations pretty low. Trailer, pretty damn good. That's a good trailer. Not a lot of trailers creep me out. This trailer creeped me out. And you're starting with things like the little kid. I don't know. It's a simple, cheap concept. Oh, put some little kids in masks. That's creepy. Well, yep. You're damn right it was creepy. It creeped the hell out of me. And you know what else creeped the hell out of me in this thing? That little thing of the drum. I'm just assuming you guys have seen the trailer already. The drum. Bum, 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 bum. That was, I don't know why. If I read that on a piece of paper, if I read you describing the little girl hitting a drum, if I read that on paper, I'd say, there's nothing creepy about that. Holy crap, in the trailer, it's creepy. And these kids are wearing these masks and the way they're, freaked me out. Also, I got to say, one of the big universal laws in the universe is no matter how good something is, add John Lithgow and it gets better. Proven once again that universal law is holding up because John Lithgow in this is great. Him in this trailer, he adds just the right dimension to this trailer. At first, I didn't even think that was Jonathan Lithgow. I just thought they got some dude who looked like him. And I thought, oh, wow, they really got a guy that looked like him. And then, oh, no, obviously, that is Jonathan Lithgow. Add Jonathan Lithgow to anything, and it instantly becomes even better. And I'm going to say this, though. The freakiest shot of this trailer to me, with all the action and all the stuff that's going on, the freakiest shot, the freakiest thing to me in this trailer, by far, was this image of that damn cat. Because I'm going to tell you what, straight up, I'm a dog guy. I like dogs. I'm not a cat guy. I don't like cats. And there's something about this mangy looking rodent that just kind of freaked the hell out of me that I did not like. I did not like it at all. Of course, you got Jason Clarke in there. He looks great. Like, overall, got to say, I'm impressed. And what do we always say about trailers? The job of a trailer is to take your enthusiasm level for a movie, no matter how high or how low it is, and bump it up a couple of notches. My expectations for Pet Sematary have been down here, guys. And I got to say, it's jumped up several notches because of this trailer. I'm now, you put me down for this movie. I'm down to see this movie. I'm excited about this movie now. That the right amount of creepiness, they just give you just the right amount of story, highlighting some really good creepy elements in it. They did a great job. I honestly thought this was a movie that would come across as cheesy. And if this trailer is any indication, cheesy is not going to be one of the things this movie is. Now, who knows? Maybe the movie's not going to be any good, but I have a feeling it's probably not going to end up being all that cheesy. Count me down as being in. I like this trailer a lot. All right, let's move on now to the second email today. And the second email today comes to us from Francisco, who writes, do you think it was part of the deal with Lucasfilm/Disney for Ron Howard to step in and direct Solo that his daughter, Bryce Dallas Howard, get the opportunity to direct one of the episodes of the live-action The Mandalorian TV series? All right, thanks a lot for the email, Francisco. And look, nobody get mad at Francisco for asking this. Francisco's just asking what we've all been thinking. Let's just admit that. Francisco's only asking what we have all been thinking. Now, for those of you who are going, what the hell is Francisco talking about? Okay, so Jon Favreau has been working on a new original live-action Star Wars TV series for the upcoming Disney streaming service. And he announced it was going to be called The Mandalorian. Then they released the list of directors for the first season. Some big names in there, including Dave Filoni, Taika Waititi, which is one of the big ones in there, but also Bryce Dallas Howard. Now, we know Bryce Dallas Howard mostly as an actress. I mean, most notably, of course, just recently, she's been in the Jurassic World films. She was, of course, in The Help. She was, of course, Gwen Stacy in the Spider-Man movies. As a matter of fact, I want to say, did you guys know that I was the first person to get a picture with the two Gwen Stacys? That's right. It was while they were promoting The Help, and I was interviewing Emma Stone and Bryce Dallas Howard, and it dawned on me, wait a minute, this is the first picture that there's ever going to be of the two Gwen Stacys in the various Spider-Man movies side by side and together, and I got this picture with the two of them, which was great. Look at Emma Stone's face, the way she's looking at me. You can tell she's thinking to herself right now, my God, that's a handsome man. That's what Emma Stone's thinking right there. No, she's not. Anyway, so that's what she's mostly for. But she has been, Bryce Dallas Howard has been directing a little bit, including this short film that she did that's been getting a lot of attention. And, you know, I've said for a long time, hey, directing some live action television episodes is a great way for a director to cut their teeth and get better. This is the sort of thing that a Dave Filoni should be directing. This is the sort of thing that a Bryce Dallas Howard should be directing. I like this move. But the elephant in the room. A lot of people, ever since they announced Ron Howard was going to come in to try to salvage Solo, and he did a great job. Ron Howard did a great job with Solo. Especially when you consider all of the challenges and all the adversity that he was facing, having to basically redo 75% of the movie while keeping its release date, trying to keep the budget as close to realistic as possible. But he did an amazing job. And I thought Solo was a real fun space adventure movie. I got a big kick out of it. He did a great job. But right from the beginning, a lot of people are going, why is a director the caliber of a Ron Howard stepping in to salvage this movie? Now, granted, he's got a long time relationship with Kathleen Kennedy. He's got a long time relationship with George Lucas. So there's a lot of that. But I remember saying at the time, when it was announced that Ron Howard was going to step in to direct Solo, I remember saying at the time, there's a give and take in here somewhere. Because somewhere in this agreement with Disney is Disney's going to greenlight a certain project of his, or he's going to get to do something in the future. If he steps in and saves this movie, he gets to do something later. I never knew what it was, and maybe this Bryce Dallas Howard thing is not that. But you can't blame Francisco for at least bringing it up and asking the question. Because the Bryce Dallas Howard name did kind of come out of nowhere. It did. It came out of nowhere. Is this the now you scratch my back part of that deal? Is this part of the whole reason why Ron Howard did Solo? Was him saying, yeah, I'll do Solo, but here's the catch. You got to green light this movie that I want to do in a couple of years, and you got to give my daughter's getting into directing, you got to give my daughter an opportunity to jump in there, direct something Star Wars-ish. Maybe something in the animated world, maybe one of this new live action show you're talking about, blah, blah, blah. You got to give my daughter a chance to get in there and cut her teeth. Look, I'm not saying that's the case. The fact of the matter is she did do this short film that was getting a lot of international attention, and this was a good opportunity. She's a big name. That could have more to do with than anything else. All I'm saying is I'm not going to fall over in shock if in 15 years Bryce Dallas Howard writes a memoir and writes her biography and says, you know, my dad got me this directing gig with the Star Wars live action show. I'm not saying that's what it is. I'm just saying the way the circumstances align, you can't at least ignore the question. It's a question. And maybe he did, maybe he didn't. Maybe she deserves it, whether he did or didn't. I mean, who knows? There's going to be a lot of questions out there. But yeah, I mean, as a fan, I am not going to outright reject the notion that maybe Ron Howard had a little something to do with Bryce getting this directing gig. Now let's see if it works out. Now it's up to her. She's got to do something with it. Let's see if she can take advantage of that. All right, let's move on to email number 3. And the third email today comes to us from Tony Jacobs. And Tony Jacobs writes, hi, John. Been a follower of The Filthy for over 5 years now. Well, thank you so much, Tony. This weekend is a tough one for me. Got a busy weekend and only have time to see one movie. Should I make it First Man or Bad Times at the El Royale? And bottom line, which one do you think will get the most people in the theaters this weekend? All right, thanks a lot for the question, man. And yeah, 2, for me, highly anticipated films opening up in the box office this weekend. We got First Man, which I already saw and I gave my review of yesterday. Great movie. Really, really good movie. And Bad Times at the El Royale, which I've not seen yet. I've been very, very excited about both of them. Which one do I think is going to be the better film? It's a little weird for me to try to give that prediction because I've seen one of them and not seen the other. But I'll tell you honestly what my prediction was before I saw First Man. My prediction would be that First Man will be the better film. You got Damien Chazelle directing it, whose last 2 films he directed, he crushed. Whiplash, La La Land. Tons of Oscar attention. Got J.K. Simmons an Oscar. Got Damien Chazelle an Oscar for Best Director. Got a Best Picture nomination. Look, it's and you got a Ryan Gosling, you got a Claire Foy, all that kind of stuff. Now, there's a lot of stuff going for Bad Times at the El Royale, too. A terrific ensemble cast, including Dakota Johnson, John Hamm, Chris Hemsworth, Jeff Bridges. I mean, that's a great cast, too. Being directed by Drew Goddard, who hasn't directed a film since Cabin in the Woods. They both look really good, but my prediction would have been First Man would be the better film. I've seen First Man. It's great. Let's see how good Fast Times at the El, or Bad Times. I want to say Fast Times because Fast Times at Ridgemount High. Bad Times at the El Royale. Let's see how good this turns out to be. I've got high hopes. Now, as far as which one will get more people out to the theater, I think it's fairly safe to say it's going to be First Man. Again, you got Ryan Gosling, the Damien Chazelle thing, the fact that this is based on a historic event that is one of the most pivotal events in the history of mankind. The first person stepping foot on the moon. It's huge. Not that First Man's going to make huge money at the box office, but I do think it's going to take top spot. As a matter of fact, when you look at the tracking numbers right now, they're predicting that First Man will probably make about double of El Royale. As a matter of fact, El Royale's not tracking great. First Man right now, they're saying is probably going to make in the neighborhood of $20 million opening weekend. But they're saying Bad Times at the El Royale, their tracking numbers are actually going down. It was at around 12 or 13 million. Now they've adjusted that down to 9.5 million. So they're predicting a 9.5 million thing for Bad Times at the El Royale. And really, we shouldn't be all that surprised. As much as I really like the trailers for Bad Times at the El Royale, they're not the type of trailers that will appeal to a wider audience. it looks a little niche. It does. It looks a little bit like it's for a small demographic. I love the trailers, but they're not trailers built to appeal to a wide audience. And I think we're going to see when this movie opens, regardless of how good it is, I think it's going to struggle a little bit. Now, I don't know that it's going to make as low as 9.5, but I'm thinking it's going to make under 15. And I do believe First Man is going to make over 20. So to answer your question, which one of these two films do I think will be better? I think First Man will be the better film, although I think they're both going to be good. But which one do I think will make more money? I just think First Man's got a broader appeal. I just think First Man has a broader appeal. So I think that's the one that's going to take that. All right, let's move on now to the fourth and final email today. And the fourth and final email today comes to us from Michael O'Hearn, who writes, "Hey, John, love your show." Thank you so much, Michael. I appreciate that. The news was just announced that the James Gunn saga has taken another turn, as it's being reported that he is going to write and direct Suicide Squad 2. What do you think of this news? Personally, I believe if he can bring that same sense of humor and action that he did with the group in the Guardians of the Galaxy films, I think we may be in for a treat. It seems only natural for him to do this next. What are your thoughts? And yes, for those of you who have kind of been in some kind of sleep chamber for the past 17 hours, I guess. James Gunn, it was, I think, originally broke by Deadline, broke the story. James Gunn has been hired by Warner Brothers to write and an eye to direct, which means they want him to direct. Now, whether or not he's going to direct, we'll have to wait and see. But they've hired him to write and an eye on to direct Suicide Squad 2. Now, we remember that when it got announced that sometime after that James Gunn and Disney parted company, the news stories started coming out that every single studio was lining up to give offers to James Gunn. Every studio was. Paramount was, Universal was, Lionsgate was, Fox was, and Warner Brothers was. And that was the one that got everybody's attention when it was said that Warner Brothers, and they were all lining him up, offering him high-profile projects to take on. And Warner Brothers was one of those. And we all speculated, if Warner Brothers is one of them, could they actually get him to do a comic book? Could they actually get him, James Gunn, to do a DC movie? Because every studio in town was offering him their biggest projects. And we all said, hey, look, it's possible. We could see James Gunn jump from one comic book movie universe ship to another one, jump over to Warner Brothers, and do something there. Whether that would be a Flash movie, I thought Flash might be a good fit for him, or whether it be something else. But it turns out it's going to be Suicide Squad. And really, that's a great fit. That is a great fit. And for James Gunn, look, it is not a widely loved movie. The first Suicide Squad made money, but is not widely loved. So here you got now James Gunn, who's in a perfect situation. Nobody has a lot of expectations for a Suicide Squad. So, hey, if he stumbles a little bit, no one's really going to blame him all that much. But if he can knock it out of the park with Suicide Squad like he did for Guardians of the Galaxy, he's going to be hailed as a hero. I liken it unto a sports analogy I like. A lot of times, like an iconic coach who's been coaching this championship team, he'll leave that team and go to a lesser team. And people will go, well, why are you going to this lesser team? Because for his legacy, if he can go to this lesser team now and take them to great success, he's going to go from being a hero to being a god. He'll go from being a hero to being a god. If James Gunn can take the success that he's had with Guardians of the Galaxy and then come over and replicate that success, and that's a big if. There's nothing guaranteeing that he can do it. It's a big if. But if he can come over to a Warner Brothers land, write and most likely direct a Suicide Squad that the first one made money but was not widely loved, and make that a critical hit and make money, he's going to a whole new level. He's going to go to a whole new level. He'll go from being this hero of the Marvel Universe to just basically being a god in the comic book things. If he can make a great big hit in the Marvel side and make a great big critically loved and audience loved hit on the Warner Brothers side. Now, granted, again, those are big ifs. Nothing says he's going to automatically do a great job. There's a couple of interesting little twists that come in here with this, though. Interesting twist number one is, of course, Dave Bautista. Dave Bautista, who has basically been on his hands and knees begging Disney to let him out of his contract. Dave Bautista has been doing everything in his power to publicly beg Disney to let him out of his contract. He doesn't want to do MCU movies anymore. He wants out. He's basically done. He said they're ridiculous. I find it, what does he say? I think he said it was nauseating to work with Disney now, blah, 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 blah. He's basically been begging Disney to let him out. Well, you knew he was going to say something about this. So the very first thing Dave Bautista does, who plays Drax the Destroyer in Guardians of the Galaxy, is to the tweet that came out of Deadline about James Gunn getting on board of Suicide Squad 2. Dave Bautista's first tweet is, of course, where do I sign up? Get me on this thing. Which is, of course, no big surprise. Now, the other little bit of drama here has to do with the dude in the clown makeup, Jared Leto. Now, maybe not a lot of you know this, and I don't care about personal spats between celebrities, except for when it could affect the movies themselves. Jared Leto, of course, was in the first Suicide Squad. I like Jared Leto's Joker. I know a lot of you guys don't. Totally fair. I did like Jared Leto's Joker. Whatever. But he was in the first film. James Gunn has publicly kind of bashed Jared Leto on several occasions. One tweet a number of years ago that James put out was like, he just put out this random tweet, driving back from Vegas at 2 a.m. or something, and having this long discussions exchanging stories about what a dick Jared Leto is. And he put this tweet out, which maybe it was a joke, I don't know. But there was another infamous thing where he suggested that Jared Leto's kind of notorious in Hollywood for how many women he sleeps around with. Fine, that's not unusual, but, James Gunn has put out there and suggested on several occasions that a number of those girls are underage. Can these two guys actually work together now? Could you see a situation where James Gunn and Jared Leto could actually work together now? I highly doubt it. Unless the two of them have privately buried the hatchet ages ago. I mean, I don't know. I'm not going to pretend to know. And again, I don't care about any of this celebrity gossip nonsense. I only care when it comes to affecting the movies that I watch. That's the only time I care about this. But I think it's probably pretty safe to say that we're not going to see a Jared Leto Joker in Suicide Squad 2 or the next incarnation of Suicide Squad. I think that's pretty safe to say. That's not to say that we won't see Jared Leto as the Joker again. You know, there's been a lot of talk about a Joker Harley standalone movie and all this kind of stuff. That could all still happen. It might not. But I think it's probably a pretty safe bet to say that we're not going to see James Gunn and Jared Leto work together on Suicide Squad 2. Look, bottom line, this is a coup for Warner Brothers. Not because they took James Gunn away from Disney. That had nothing to do with it. Disney and him parted ways. I think it's a coup as far as Warner Brothers in terms of all the other studios, because everybody was trying to get James Gunn. They were all giving him big pitches with big high-profile projects. They were all trying to get James Gunn into the fold, and Warner Brothers came out on top. Now, whether or not James Gunn selecting Warner Brothers was a little bit of a double effort to Disney, or just because, no, he really loves the comic book world, and he just thinks there's some really cool things you could do with Suicide Squad, and that was just legitimately the most interesting project to him. Maybe that's the case. But I mean, you would be forgiven a little bit if a little part of your heart kind of believes that this is just a way of James Gunn going mwah to Disney a little bit, and who would blame him for that? But great move for Warner Brothers. This is a good fit. I also think it's a good move for James Gunn. This is a good kind of project. Normally, I would have liked to see him go more horror route, but he's producing some horror films, so that he's got that under his belt as well. Nice move. I'm excited. I'm looking forward to Suicide Squad 2 now. It's a great choice, and I think this is going to be a good fit. Now, let's see if he can actually fulfill on that promise and give us something that can be financially successful and critic and fan loved, if he can do that, man, again, he's going to a whole nother status. He's going to a whole nother status if that happens. So we'll have to just sit around and wait and see now. All right, guys. With that out of the way, let's save some time now and take some live questions from you guys. You guys have been sending in a bunch of live questions already, so let's get right to it. And the first live question today comes to us from Nathan Oswald, who writes, one movie I wish we could have gotten, but sadly never, was a John Hughes film starring Robin Williams. Well, dude, listen, there's a whole lot of films with Robin Williams that we never got. And I remember the passing of Robin Williams. I don't know if you guys remember the AMC show I did. The morning it was announced that Robin Williams had passed away. It was the first time I've ever gotten emotional over the passing of a celebrity. But, I mean, I spent so much of my childhood with Robin Williams. You know, not in person, but on screen. Being entertained by Robin Williams, having millions of us have had our senses of humor influenced by Robin Williams. You know, it was such a powerful thing when he passed away. And yeah, I mean, not only John Hughes, man, but a lot of them. Cody Carroll writes, should the film Life be a prequel to Venom? Oh, absolutely not. I remember when Life came out, some people speculated this is a secret prequel to Venom. No, it's not. And nor could it possibly be. It makes no sense. So no, they should not make Life a prequel to Venom. Not at all. Jordan Miller writes, Breeze, the all-time leading passer, baby. Your Maple Leafs are my New Orleans Saints. I can honestly say Monday night brought some man tears. Dude, when you consider the history of the NFL and how many quarterbacks have played in this league, for Drew Brees, and by the way, all-time passing leading passer means most yards. He just broke the record for most passing yards in the history of the NFL. Not most touchdowns, not most completions, but most yards. Huge record when you consider the history of the NFL and the people in it. And I'll tell you what, I couldn't be happier. I love Drew Brees. I think Drew Brees is one of the classiest, most talented, best quarterbacks, not just in the history of the league, but today. I don't know if there's 3 other quarterbacks in the league that I would take today in front of Drew Brees. One guy would be named Tom Brady, sure, but that might be it. I honestly don't think there's another quarterback in this league that I take before Drew Brees. And yes, that includes Aaron Rodgers, because the dude's, his body's just breaking down. There's whatever. But I think Drew Brees. Aaron has to be in the conversation, even though his body's breaking down. But Drew Brees has got to be up there, man. He's one of my favorite guys to watch play quarterback. He's just a magician. When that ball snaps and he gets a ball in his hand, he's the best. But anyway, yeah, I was celebrating right along with you, Jordan. It was a great record for him. Let's see. Jack Leo writes, which sequel was more disappointing, Spider-Man 3 or Indy 4? Personally, I think Spider-Man 3 is the worst movie, but Indy 4 was more disappointing. Yes, absolutely. I agree with that completely. Spider-Man 3 is the worst movie, but like it's a new Indiana Jones movie that we had waited over a decade for. Finally, and we never thought we were going to get another Indy movie and blah, blah, blah. And it came out and it was, and you know what? Look, I'll say this. Indiana Jones 4 is not a garbage movie. You put any other title on this movie like Dr. Rick Jephthah and The Great Adventure, if you just called it that and it was the exact same movie, I think a lot of us would come out going, oh yeah, it's not bad. But it wasn't an Indiana Jones movie, and on that level, it really disappoints. So yeah, I agree. I think the worst movie is Spider-Man 3, but the more disappointing was Indiana Jones 4. Ben Hughes writes, I kind of got a Hulk versus Abomination feel in that final battle in Venom. Also, that Pet Sematary trailer was good. Still has that vibe from the original. You know what? I'm going to disagree with you a little bit, Ben. I didn't get an original vibe. I personally got a completely different vibe from the original. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. And I'm not saying you're wrong. Not at all. If you got that vibe, you got that vibe. But for me, I didn't get a vibe of the original film. This felt very much like its own entity. You know what I'm saying? It felt very much like its own thing. And I felt like it was a totally different vibe. So that for me is one of the reasons why it works so well. but I'm sure you're not alone. I'm sure other people got a vibe from the original as well. Ben follows up with, also, First Man isn't even showing at the small theater in my area. Oh, that sucks, which is disappointing. Takes an hour to head to a Dolby theater. Groans. Oh, man, that sucks. I'm sorry about that. Now, are you sure about that? Double check that later. Because sometimes theaters update late what's opening, and maybe you were looking for something, because it's not in theaters right now. It doesn't open in theaters till tomorrow night. So I would say double check that, but if that's true, man, that sucks. I'm sorry to hear about that. Sometimes we've got to drive a long way to see the movies we want to see, man. Nathan Oswald writes, Halloween comes out in 1 week, Red Dead Redemption 2 the week after that, Dodgers go to the NLCS, October rules. Yeah, first of all, I'm the guy never given a squat of piss about the Halloween franchise. Sorry, I know everybody gets mad at me when I say that. I've never been impressed with the Halloween franchise, even the original. And I did not care when they said they were doing another one. And I didn't care when they said it was going to be the true sequel to the original, ignoring all the other ones. And I didn't care when they said Jamie Lee Curtis was back, although I love Jamie Lee Curtis. I love her. I didn't care because it's Halloween, and I don't care about the Halloween movies. I don't think any of them are any good. But holy crap balls, man. The trailers for Halloween have been exceptional. And they've taken me from that place of I don't care to I'm really excited. And I am. Now I'm excited to see this movie, and who would have thought that? Zombatron5678 writes, my fear is that Venom will do so good, Sony won't need Marvel and pull out of the deal. It seems that I might be right. Still hopeful, though. It's not a matter of need. Look, they didn't need Marvel anyway. It was just a good move for them to have Spider-Man in the MCU. They made some money off it, took some of the creative pressure off, all that kind of stuff. If anything, Venom succeeding proves they don't need Spider-Man. Sony doesn't need Spider-Man. Now, would it be advantageous for them to have Spider-Man? Sure. But the opening weekend of Venom has proved Sony does not need Spider-Man. They just proved it. They don't need him. They can have success without Spider-Man. So, we leave Spider-Man in the MCU, we make some money off that, and we create our own universe, and we were off to a great start with Venom destroying every box office expectation there was on it, makes $80 million at the box office. They don't need him. But, then again, maybe they planned long before Venom ever came out to take him back, or maybe Sony and Marvel are talking about merging universes. I have a hard time believing either of those scenarios, but they're possible. They're possible right now. Julius Goodwin writes, in your executive position, remember the words of Tony Stark via Ultron. Keep your friends rich, your enemies rich, and wait to see which is which. That's a good quote, man, and I will keep that in mind. Thank you so much. Ben Rayner writes, DC threw the gauntlet down by grabbing Gunn. Well, yeah, but again, I don't think it's like throwing the gauntlet down in terms of Marvel. Because Marvel and he had parted ways. That was done. Somebody was going to grab him. To me, this is Warner Brothers like swinging their dick around, not at Marvel, but at all the other studios. Because all the other studios wanted James Gunn. We know that from the Hollywood Reporter reports. Every studio was lining up trying to get James Gunn, and Warner Brothers won the James Gunn sweepstakes. And they got him. So throwing it down, sure, but not the way a lot of people think. A lot of people think this is Warner Brothers throwing the gauntlet down to more Disney, when really it's not. It's them throwing the gauntlet down to everybody else. Because we were all going after him. We got him. We got him. And that's, they're going to be billowing about that for a while, I'm sure. Darth Vader the Boss writes, Supernatural comes back tomorrow with season 14. I am so excited. And can you believe this show has been going on for that long? It's so remarkable. It's crazy. TV shows just do not last this long. I mean, it's 14 years. 14 seasons. Like, imagine that. That's insane. This show has been around, has been on TV long before I even thought about moving to Los Angeles. That's how long this show's been on TV. It's crazy. It's absolutely nuts. And I love this show. It's been one of my favorite shows for about 8 years now. I continue to watch it. I just love hanging out with the brothers. and Castiel and all the others, and Crowley, although he's not there anymore. I'm hoping they bring him back at some point. But yeah, it is pretty incredible. Stubble McShave writes, do you think we will get a new Black Adder TV series or movie, or is Hugh Laurie too busy nowadays? I don't think it's a matter of Hugh Laurie being too busy. He's clearly not too busy. But I honestly don't know much about Black Adder. I mean, I'm familiar with the show. I never watched it. So I really don't have an opinion on it. Nor do I keep my ear to the ground. So anything is possible if there's enough public demand. I don't hear a lot of demand for people asking for Black Adder, but maybe that's just because I'm disconnected from it. So who knows? Julius Goodwin writes, did you ever YouTube Robert Downey Jr. singing? No, I never did. Sorry about that, man. I've been real busy. Stubble McShave writes, who is the most talented actor, musician? Clint Eastwood, Jeff Goldblum, or Hugh Laurie? Oh, that's easy. Steve Martin. Steve Martin is. If you guys have never watched Steve Martin play some bluegrass, hop on YouTube and search any video Steve Martin playing banjo. He's not just good, he's world class. Like it's not the type of music I would normally listen to, like this bluegrass stuff. It's not normally I would sit and listen to. But watching Steve Martin play it is insane. It's insane. You just want to spit. Like, how can anybody be this talented? Seriously, go look it up. It's really kind of crazy. Darth Vader the Boss writes, is the reboot for Clue still happening? It's been so many months since we've heard about this, and I am starting to feel like this movie might never happen. Yep, it's still happening. Remember, there are a number of projects that both Ryan Reynolds and his Deadpool 2 writers, who are going to be writing the Clue thing, have to do. They were getting this surprise Deadpool thing ready that's coming out in December. Then they've got the Pikachu movie that they're doing, and then they're going to get around to Clue. So yes, as far as I understand, everything is still full steam ahead for this Clue film, but they've just got a number of other projects they have to finish first before they can get around to that. That's my understanding at any rate. Let's see. I'm Upset writes, chances for another big Mama's House. Hey, look, man. If you can make some movie for $2 million and make 10 at the box office, why not? I don't think the chances are very good. I'm certainly not interested in it, but never count it out, my friend. Never count it out. Kara Black writes, did you like the Flash season premiere last night? Oh, I haven't seen it. I'm looking forward to it, but the fact of the matter is right now, I finished doing this show in the mornings. I do some editing on the individual clips, and then I haul-tail down to Hollywood to the new studio, and I was there till like 8 o'clock last night. And then came home, played a little Mario Party with Anne, and then I went to bed. And then I was up at 5 o'clock this morning, getting ready for the show today, and repeat. So I have really had no time. So I'm hoping maybe tonight when I go to bed, I'll have a chance to watch the season premiere, because I have been looking forward to it, but I haven't seen it yet. James Bonner writes, saw Venom, liked it. So do you think they'll dub in Kelsey Grammer's voice for the mid-credit scene when they release the special Blu-ray? I'll be honest with you, James. I think you're telling a joke, but it's going over my head. I don't know what it is we're talking about. Let's see. Oh, hell, where do we go? Okay, here we go. Abel Contreras writes, use my Google Play survey money to pay for this. Thank you so much, Abel. I appreciate that. JCL Productions writes, hey, John, been my favorite movie guy for a while. Keep it up. Thanks so much, JCL. Your dedication to your channel makes me want to do better and drive myself harder. Dude, that's honestly, that's one of the nicest things somebody said to me in this week. Seriously. Thank you. I appreciate that. And I'm glad I can be helpful. Thank you. Seriously, man, I appreciate that very much. Alan Gonzalez writes, Marvel will reboot the MCU to start fresh with the X-Men. Nah, X-Men will have nothing to do with it. Will have nothing to do with it. They're not going to reboot the universe just to make room for X-Men. No, they're not going to do that. They're going to reboot the universe at some point, but they're not going to do it just to make room for X-Men. No. Raphael's Creative Style writes, classic sci-fi film recommendation, Forbidden Planet, 1956, Walter Pidgeon and Francis Leslie Nielsen. You know what? I don't think I've seen it. Let me just double check. I don't think I've seen it. Forbidden Planet. Because quite often I don't think I've seen something, but I really have. Oh, and they got the robot from Lost in Space in it. Okay, I am aware of this movie. I have not seen it, though. So that's one I haven't seen. Good recommendation. Leslie Nielsen's in there. I didn't even realize Leslie Nielsen was in it, too. And Richard Anderson's in it as well. Interesting. I will keep my eyes open for that, man. Thanks for the recommendation. Let's see. Brandon Millspaw writes, man, John, did Sam Elliott in that car scene when he puts in reverse in A Star is Born just not bring you to tears? No, it didn't bring me to tears, but it's a great scene. Not going to give anything away because a lot of people, you guys haven't seen it yet. But yeah, there's a scene in the movie where Sam Elliott puts a car in reverse. Woo! Spoiler! Anyway, it's awesome. And if for no other reason, I'm telling you, Sam Elliott is going to get a Best Supporting Actor nomination for this movie. He's great in it. And that scene is going to stick with me for the rest of the year. That scene's going to stick with me for the rest of the year. Let's see. Micah T writes, just wanted to say because of channels like yours, Jeremy Johns and others, I find myself watching more YouTube than TV. Keep it up, JC. You're the man. Well, thank you so much, Micah T. And Micah T has been actually, correct me if I'm wrong, I think Mike has been like following my stuff since like the movie blog days. Like not even for your consideration. I think he's been around like a long time, dude. It's always fun seeing your name pop up there. Thanks so much, dude. Kenyon Haynes writes, thoughts on The Howling, second best werewolf transformation ever, next to American Werewolf in London. I was not a big fan of The Howling, to be honest with you, but I'm trying to remember the transformation. Let me just make sure I am actually thinking of the right movie, because sometimes I'm not. Another one, D. Wallace. Yeah. Oh man, I'll tell you what, I cannot even remember the transformation. I can't remember the transformation. So, yeah, I can't remember it. I do remember not loving the movie. I mean, that much I remember. I remember not, being completely in love with the movie, and that's fine and everything. But I wish I could remember the transformation. I just can't, though. Let's see. Keenan follows up with, they didn't move Aquaman because the merchandise machine had already left the station. Target, Walmart, etc. already received dates, products month ago. Oh, sure. But that doesn't explain, like, not that many months ago. Trust me. I'm married to somebody who works with Hasbro. Trust me. I understand how this process works. It wasn't that long ago that they got their product. But that explains why Aquaman didn't change the date this week. Doesn't explain why they didn't change the date back in July. Like, I thought July Comic-Con was a massive opportunity for them to announce a date change. I still think they should have changed the dates. I think this movie's going to be great. And I think it's going to do just fine. But again, you'll never convince me that they wouldn't have done better had they not moved. And that's why I've said for the last number of weeks, it's too late for them to change dates. It's too late. They should have changed dates, but they should have changed the dates months ago. July, even August. Hell, even early September, there was an opportunity. Early September, but that was pushing it. But June, July, August, that was your window to change the dates. I still think they should have done it, but they didn't. So, oh well. Now we just look forward to the movie when it's coming out. Karam Majub writes, is it just me or do the visual effects in Aquaman look like video game cutscenes? I think it's just you. I mean, remember too, it has always been this way since the early 2000s. A lot of the times visual effects that are made for the big screen look a certain way on the big screen, but then will come across a little bit different on a small screen, particularly in a trailer, right? So I've lost count of how many times a visual effect might look a little wonky in a trailer on television, but then you see it on the big screen and it looks absolutely perfect because that's what it was formatted for. So no, I don't get video game cutscene feel from it myself personally. That's not to say you're wrong, not at all. That's the way it strikes you. That's the way it strikes you. All I can say is that it didn't quite strike me that way personally. Justin T writes, do you have any movie traditions on Halloween? I like to cook and watch bad horror movies with friends. Watched Rubber last year. Stupid fun. I actually don't. Yeah, I don't have really any movie traditions at any time during the year except for Christmas. Usually Christmas time I'll watch Wizard of Oz, and I'll definitely watch Alistair's A Christmas Carol. So those are my kind of main movie traditions, but that's pretty much it. That's pretty much it. I don't have a lot of movie traditions outside that I can think of off the top of my head, but I certainly don't have any Halloween ones, but that's a good one to have. That's a really good one to have. Let's see. AK Channel TV writes, after seeing the results of Venom, do you think Sony made the right decision to hide the movie? Also, Eminem's song is fire. Yeah, I wasn't thrilled with the Eminem song when I heard it outside of the Venom movie. But it's funny, me and Ray were talking about this. But then when you hear the song at the end of the Venom movie, having just watched Venom and being in the song is great. I wasn't thrilled with it when I first heard it outside of context, but then when I heard it in context, I'm like, no, this was perfect for this. So, no, I still think it was underhanded, dirty, and vile of Sony to hide the reviews. It just screams lack of confidence. But, I mean, look, it basically does what we said it does. And we were right. Them hiding the reviews was a big signal to us they were not confident in the film. And it was true. They didn't have confidence. They believed that critically people wouldn't like it. And that's the way it turned out. So was it the right thing to do? No, it was still not the right thing to do. Did it make them a little bit more money? I don't know. Hard to say. Like, here's what I think, though. I think, see, what Disney does with their films is they'll show it early, especially the ones they really believe in. They'll show it early to critics, but then they'll also show a bunch of fan screenings early. If Sony really had confidence that the audience was going to like their things, they should have done a bunch of advanced fan screenings, and they didn't. Sony had no faith that critics would like it, and they didn't have a lot of faith that the audience would like it. Turns out we did. The majority of us did like Venom, which is great, but Sony didn't have any confidence in that. They had no confidence in this film. So it's a double-edged sword, man. It's a double-edged sword. Let's see. Agalisasis writes, could Sony use Miles Morales and Marvel keep Peter Parker? Nope. We've talked about this a number of times. Part of the deal is you can't have two live-action Spider-Mans going on in different universes. Both Marvel and Sony feel that would just be confusing, and it devalues Marvel having a Spider-Man. That's the thing. It devalues Marvel having Spider-Man. I'll give you an example. A bunch of you guys will know and will remember that for a short period of time, I did one season of a show called Film HQ for Lionsgate. Lionsgate had the Comic-Con HQ streaming service. Film HQ was kind of the flagship show for a little bit. And they wanted me to be on it and blah, blah, blah. And I became the showrunner of it, and I ran it. When they first approached me to do it, I wasn't hosting Movie Talk. And then sometime after I signed on to do Film HQ, but before we started shooting, like this was months before we started shooting the show, my former company came back to me and asked me to come back. So I said, okay, sure, I think I can do both. The Film HQ is only a weekly show. I'm pretty sure I could do both. Sure. So I agreed to go back. Lionsgate wasn't happy, though, that I went back. Lionsgate's thought was, we wanted, the idea is if you want to see John Campea talking movies, you got to see him on Film HQ. And to them, and I understand where they're coming from, by me also still going back and doing Movie Talk again, they felt that devalued their show. Now, we went through the contract, and there was nothing in the contract that said I couldn't do another show, so they weren't really happy about it, but they accepted it, and I was doing both. And I had a great time doing both. I loved doing Film HQ, and I loved working with Lionsgate. They were terrific partners, awesome people to work with. The Comic-Con HQ thing didn't work out the way we had hoped, but nonetheless, they were great to work with. I love the people at Lionsgate. They're just fantastic. But it's even more important when you're talking about a property like Spider-Man, right? It's even bigger because who the hell's John Campea? Spider-Man, right? It would devalue Spider-Man in the MCU if there was another live-action Spider-Man running around in another set of movies, right? It devalues it. So, no, that's why you cannot have live action. Even if it's a different live action Spider-Man, you can't do it. Sony can still do animated stuff, but they can't do it live action. Not under the terms of their current agreement, but we all know that their current agreement's ending soon, so we'll see what happens after that. Ricardo Ramirez writes, just finished season 2 of Sons of Anarchy. Wow, amazing. Dude, one of my top 3 best TV shows of all time, and I'm telling you, it just gets better. You're getting into season 3. I'm gonna warn you right now. You're getting into season 3, which I believe is the season they go to Ireland. There are a number of people who think that's kind of the weakest season of Sons of Anarchy. I loved it. I love season 3 of Sons of Anarchy. But a lot of people feel like season 3 was the weaker season, then it gets back to being really strong in season 4. I disagree with that, though. I think season 3 is awesome. But you'll see it for yourself, but I'm glad you're getting on board with Sons of Anarchy, man. The movie's so good. By the way, did you notice in Venom that the lobby security guy for the news channel that Eddie talks with a couple of times about his daughter going to MIT, that's the head guy of the Mayans from Sons of Anarchy, and he cameos a number of times in Mayans. Did you notice that was the guy? Sons of Anarchy forever. Let's see. Santez Henderson writes, I think Marvel Sony should use Miles Morales PP Istring. I don't know what you're saying, Santez. Sorry, man. Bats220 writes, just finished watching Stranger Things Season 1, finally. Woo, a little bit late to the boat, but good on you for getting caught up on that. Never watch any shows, and I didn't think I would like it, but I love it and all the 80s stuff, and it's just the right amount of creepy for me. Love. You know what? I think I even like Season 2 better. I like Season 2 even better. And I'm a Dungeons & Dragons guy, so I love that they play Dungeons & Dragons. I'm still waiting, by the way, for Kyle Newman to send me that copy of his book. His Dungeons & Dragons book. I'm dying to get my hands on that. But yeah, man, but believe me, Season 2, not everybody thinks it's better. A lot of people do, though, and so do I. I think it only gets better in Season 2. So I'm looking forward to you watching that, Bats. So I'm glad you got on board with it. Christopher Sanchez writes, hey, John, like Venom, what are the chances Warner Brothers doesn't have faith in Aquaman? I'll love it no matter what, but seems like Warner Brothers is covering bases for low box office. I have no idea what you're talking about, Christopher. Warner Brothers is showing a huge amount of confidence in this film. They are doing a lot of talking about this film. They got James Wan directing it. I see nothing that suggests that they don't have confidence in the film. I see nothing that suggests they don't have confidence in the film. Now, what are their expectations for the box office? Well, that's a separate question. That's a totally separate question. They've got to understand that their expectations have to be kept in check because of when they're releasing it. They're releasing it against a bunch of other very high-profile films, including Mary Poppins, including Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, including Bumblebee on the exact same day, including tons of films. So they've got to keep their expectations realistic. But lack of confidence in this film, I got to tell you, man, I have seen nothing that suggests to me that they don't have confidence in it. Now, if they hold the review embargo till December 19th, then yep, they don't have any confidence in it. But for now, I personally don't see any signs of that right now. But we'll have to wait and see till we get a little bit closer. Angry Irish Benjamin writes, before it was even released, I saw MCU fans rooting for it to fail at the box office and Sony to lose the Venom Spider movie rights. I don't care if they don't like or want to see Venom, but then we jump down to, he follows it up. I'll skip over Trail for a second and go, that's just something else entirely. First, the Dark Knight fans making death threats to critics who didn't like that movie, and the Disney bribes critics lie. Now this, I'm just so tired of toxic fandom. Yeah, well, the funny thing is, Angry Irish Benjamin, is that the idiotic thing is, and I try to explain this to people, it's like, yo, moron, listen. If you want Spider-Man in the MCU, You better hope that Venom succeeds. And this is what I was trying to explain to people. You better get on your hands and knees and pray to whatever God you worship that Venom succeeds if you want Spider-Man staying in the MCU. Because if Sony becomes convinced that they can't make a superhero universe work without Spider-Man, they're going to take Spider-Man back. So you're being completely ass backwards in your rationale, thinking, oh, I want Venom to fail, so Sony will give up Spider-Man. Idiots! If Venom failed, they would have been taking Spider-Man back right quick. If Venom succeeds, and Sony sees, we can work without Spider-Man. We can make this cinematic universe work, and we didn't need Spider-Man. We can keep Spider-Man in the MCU and keep making money from them and make our own universe and make money here. It is a win-win for everybody. And I kept trying to explain to these knuckle draggers who are like, oh, I hope this movie fails. Like, you didn't even see the movie. Maybe the movie's great. Maybe the movie's fun, and you're hoping that it fails. Well, I just want them to get Spider-Man. You moron! That's the opposite of what's going to happen. I tried to explain that to people. They never wanted to listen. Trail Shredder 1, Malagon writes, reboot the DCEU is time. Well, I've been saying that forever. But look, it's not going to happen. Not now. It's pretty clear that the new sheriff over at Warner Brothers, Walter Hamada, is not planning on rebooting it. So that's it. Now, I agree. I said a long time ago, I thought they should reboot the DCEU because I think that puts them in the best position for success. Walter Hamada's chosen not to do that. Fine. There are other ways to succeed. I just thought rebooting was the best chance for success. Doesn't mean they can't succeed doing it other ways. So let's see what happens. Let's see what happens with Aquaman. Let's see what happens with Shazam. Let's see what happens with Wonder Woman 2. And hell, let's see what happens with Suicide Squad 2 with the James Gunn at the helm. All right, next up, the Trail Shredder follows up with, John, you're going to So Proud. So my girlfriend saw episode 7 for the first time. We just finished watching the whole saga. And to my surprise, I came home yesterday and she was benching Rebels. I'm going to guess you're trying to say she was binging Rebels. She's binging Rebels. Dude, listen to me. Now, we talk about movies and stuff like that and, you know, first world problem stuff, right? But this is serious. Stop what you're doing. Put down your ice cream bar, whatever it is you're doing right now. Stop, look at me in the eyes, and listen to me right now, okay? This is dead serious. You marry this girl. You come home, gentlemen, you come home to a girl who's binging Rebels, you put a ring on that. You put a ring on that because I'm going to tell you right now, you will never get anything better. You will never find anything better. That woman is a treasure. Put a ring on it and seal the deal right now. Because if you don't, somebody else will. Because that woman, I'm telling you right now, is a treasure. Make your life better. Javier Belmer writes, hey Jay, there's a film called Roma, raising a lot of eyebrows, written and directed by award winner Alfonso Cuarón. It's the Mexican entry for best foreign film. And it's won an award at the Venice International Film Festival in August. Yeah, we talked about Roma a couple weeks ago, actually. And it's getting rave reviews. Rave reviews. And a number of critics are saying this film is not just going to be in the running for Best Foreign Language Film at the Oscars. A lot of people are saying this is going to get a Best Picture nomination at the Oscars. I haven't seen it yet myself, but a lot of very heavy hitters in the film commentary world are saying this film is going to get a Best Picture nomination. It's going to be difficult for it to have a lot of financial success because it is a subtitled film. Not a lot of people run out to see subtitled films here. And I believe the film's also in black and white, I think. I might be wrong about that, but I believe the film's in black and white. So I'm not sure it's going to be a big box office hit, but hearing huge things about Javier. Huge things about it. And yeah, a lot of critics are losing their minds over it. So there's a few automatics, I think, for a Best Picture nomination this year. Right now it's clear A Star is Born is an automatic nominee. But I think Roma's another automatic nominee. I really do. I think Roma's going to be an automatic nominee just from what I'm hearing. I got to see the movie myself still, but I hope I'll get a chance to do that soon. Arc Arcagel, who writes, do you think Pixar could ever make an adaptation of a different property like Marvel or Star Wars? So far, all of their movies have been original. Well, that was one of the things that was very important to John Lasseter when he was running Pixar. Original stories, original films. They didn't even like doing sequels all that much, but they had so much success with sequels, they had to do a few. But yeah, it seems now, John Lasseter is no longer in charge there. We got new sheriffs in town at Pixar. Could they deviate from that path that John Lasseter had for them of only doing their own created stuff? I don't know. I would find it unlikely. I find it unlikely. I think one of the identifying markers of Pixar's DNA is doing only their own original stories. And I personally think they'll probably stick with that. But it would be intriguing. It would be intriguing. Angry Irish Benjamin writes, some of the rehired James Gunn people on Twitter have taken to accusing Disney of listening to Nazis because of that Cernovich tool. Why would that convince Disney to take him back? Not a great tactic. No, it's not. And Dave Bautista did his own tactic as well. Look, here's the thing. I've said this before. I will say it again. While I do not agree with Disney's decision to part ways with James Gunn, clearly, while the whole cast of Guardians of the Galaxy does not agree with Disney's decision to part ways with James Gunn, while the vast majority of film fans do not agree with Disney's decision to part ways with James Gunn, while I do not agree with Disney's decision to part ways with James Gunn, I understand it. I understand it. I do. Disney was involuntarily thrust into a very awkward situation. I believe they handled it wrong, but I understand why at the end of the day, one of the feasible options to them was we got to part ways with James Gunn. I don't like how they did it, but I've talked ad nauseum about that, but I get it. I do. I think they should have done something different, but it's one of those things where, yeah, I would have done B, but I can understand why you would feel the need to do A. You know what I mean? It was one of those situations. And look, everybody knows I'm a big James Gunn supporter, but listen, this moron, Cernovich dude, the fact of the matter is, he's not the one who created the tweets that got James Gunn in trouble. James Gunn is the one who wrote those tweets, not him. It was clearly a political motivated thing for him to try to gather those tweets up. Clearly he's a total tool. But at the end of the day, he's not the guy who wrote them. James Gunn is. So, no, I don't agree with Disney, but I understand why they did what they did. I don't agree with how they did it, but I understand why they did what they did. And you're right. Having Dave Bautista, who I'm also a big fan of, but having Dave Bautista tweet out publicly, Disney is bowing down to the whims of an online cyber Nazi, mentioning this idiot dude, blah, blah. That's not going to make Disney change their mind. That was never going to be helpful. That was never going to be constructive. That's not going to get you any closer to your goal. And I agree with you, Anglo-Irish Benjamin. I mean, fans, I can understand the sentiment, but writing that stuff out and tweeting that stuff out isn't going to make Disney change their mind. Not that kind of stuff. So, yeah, it's an unfortunate situation. But guess what? Disney's going to move on, and they're going to continue to succeed. And James Gunn has already moved on, and he's going to continue to succeed. And at the end of the day, everybody wins. James Gunn has, I'm sure, a lucrative new contract, a new digital playground to play in, new stories to tell, all the studios lining up. He's never felt better. I'll tell you that right now. He has never felt better. And Disney's already moved on. So it was an ugly situation. It was an unfortunate situation. But you know what? It worked out for everybody, and everybody's been able to move on now. So here's hoping for the best for all of them. Paul Brannick writes, Baranek writes, why hire him for a sequel to the worst movie in the DCEU, especially since it was clearly copying Guardians of the Galaxy, a film he made? Don't Green Lantern Corps and Flash still need directors? It's a weird situation. Look, it's the one that appealed to him. It's the one that appealed to him. Suicide Squad is the one that appealed to him. And I would argue that, as I already argued earlier, that the fact that it wasn't a beloved movie, yet still made a lot of money, the fact that it wasn't a beloved movie positions him, and I think these are the types of characters that fit more to James Gunn's sensibilities. These half-broken, outside the edges characters are going to play to James Gunn's strengths, I think. And remember, it's not Warner. This is James Gunn selected this. He could have selected anything he wanted. He wanted this. I thought he would have been a good match for Flash. But you know what? He's a great fit for Suicide Squad. These are his types of characters. And if he can take a property like Suicide Squad, which people didn't, generally speaking, I did like the first Suicide Squad movie, but I'm alone. Everybody else didn't like Suicide Squad. If he can now take that and make it to something that gets celebrated, he's going to be considered a god in this business. And again, these are the types of characters that fit his style more. So I can totally see it, Paul. I get where you're coming from. But I can totally see it. But remember, this was James Gunn's decision to do this one. Paul Baranek follows up with Batista as Bane in Suicide Squad 2. I hadn't thought about that. That would be the next coup. If they actually do get Dave Batista in there, that would be hilarious. Bane, not a bad... who knows what kind of story that James Gunn's going to write for this thing. Maybe it doesn't make sense to have Bane, but if it did, Batista would be a great Bane. All right, final question of the day, guys. Comes to us from Kenny Kearns, who writes, my favorite part of Suicide Squad was Joker. The thought of not having him in the sequel makes me lose all interest. I loved his Joker, reminding me of the Dark Knight Return Joker, and don't think we'll ever see him again. Well, remember, they've said they've got plans for him in a standalone movie, but it all comes down to the story that the director wants to tell. And if the director doesn't want to use Joker, then don't force in Joker just to have Joker there, right? And this is going to be a new story. They might even recast a bunch of the roles. So we'll have to wait and see. I'm with you. I like Joker and Harley. Joker and Harley was my favorite thing about the first Suicide Squad. And my biggest complaint about Suicide Squad, besides the fact that it was a hot mess, but my big complaint about Suicide Squad, the first one, was that you didn't give us enough of Joker and Harley together. When the two of them were on screen together, to me, it was awesome. But they had so little of it that it left me a little bit disappointed. Anyway, guys, that will do it for me for today's installment of the John Campea Show. Thank you so much for being here. Listen, guys, don't forget, I'll be back again tomorrow for the John Campea Show, 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Make sure you come back and join us then. Guys, make sure you're following me on Twitter, just at John Campea. Make sure you subscribe to this YouTube channel, guys. Click that subscribe button. Become one of the subscribers to the channel here. And also, guys, click the thumbs up button. Leave a comment below. All these things helps the channel a great deal. A little bit of a note. I mentioned this the other day, but I'll mention it again. It is Wednesday, but once again, we're not in the new studio yet, so there's no Weekly Hero tonight. Weekly Hero, we are aiming to have it up and ready for next Wednesday. Here's hoping we'll be there because we're going to get things going with the John Campea Show in the new studio on Monday. So here's hoping all the dominoes will fall into place, but no Weekly Hero tonight, unfortunately. All right, guys, that will do it for now. Thanks a lot for joining me. My name's John Campea, and until the next video, bye-bye.